Hello and welcome. We are here on set for the Julius Baer campaign Window to the Future, and I'm joined by Formula E driver Jérôme D'Ambrosio, who's been at the forefront of this sport since its very first season. Now, you might not have recognised him, that's because we've aged him about 45 years or so. Despite how things look, this is not the future. We're still in 2019, but here with Julius Bär, we want to demonstrate how your investments today shape how you will live in years to come, and how Formula E is changing the future for mobility. So, Jérôme, what does Formula E mean to you?
Well, the first word that comes to my mind is innovation. In every aspect, just not only with the technology, but in the form of racing that Formula E is, compared to other traditional forms of racing.
But at the start, Formula E had its critics, it had its doubters. What appealed to you to join this new sport, despite the criticism?
I think that, for me, it was always, you have to go with what you believe, no matter what people say. There's a lot of people said that when I was young, I was crazy to dream about being a race car driver, Formula One, Formula E, and so on. Doesn't matter what people believe or say. What matters is what you believe. And Formula E made sense. Back in the days, it made a lot of sense in what they were trying to achieve. Would they have achieved or managed to do so? That's a different question, and that's where we took the risk. But the risk wasn't taken in the concept. The concept just made sense.
And what is it about the sport that's made you think differently?
Formula E has definitely brought me into a new world of sustainable developments. And some consciousness about what's going on with the planet and our environment, what we need to do to make a difference. So for sure, it's something that has influenced my daily life as well. There are a couple of things that I pay attention now that I didn't necessarily pay attention before. It would bother me coming back home and I've seen that I've left the light on. It would bother me to, when I'm actually not using. Before I would brush my teeth, leaving the tap on, and now I don't. I, use the water when I need it, and for those 3 minutes when I'm brushing my teeth, I just shut the water off. And all these little details are because not of Formula E itself, but the environment that it's in, the people that you meet, and in the end, there's one big talk: is sustainable development on different fronts, and it makes you aware of a global movement.
What is the next step in technology for Formula E?
Well, now we've just passed one big step. As we said, the first 4 seasons we were changing cars in the middle of the race. It was entertaining, it was different, but it was also a message that the technology was, for some people, it was a message that said that the technology was not ready yet. If you needed 2 cars to perform a race, well, season 5 that has just started. We have now, and the biggest change, 1 car for the whole race. So 1 battery with more power, going double the distance. This is a development that we're trying to push. And let's not forget that in an environment like racing, we always ask more to the engineer. So the rate of development is much higher than in any other industries. And this is why Formula E is so important in that aspect, I think, also for manufacturers.
And you've talked about how relevant the sport has to be to attract fans, to attract sponsors. What about the founding partner, the sponsor, Julius Baer? How important are they to the sport?
Well, it's very, as you can imagine, 4 years ago, to start a project like that for Alejandro and Formula E people, you needed support, but you needed people to believe in the project and believe in the message beyond having seen it. Really believing in the message, believing in the concept, and go for it, but there was a risk. I mean, some people said we're a bit crazy to do that, but I guess we were a little bit, entrepreneurial on different fronts. And so without a partner like Julius Baer, which is a founding partner of the championship, we wouldn't exist. These things wouldn't be possible. So I think, having said that, it's pretty clear that the importance of such partnerships.
And you are in contact with sponsors around the world. They travel with you. How close are those bonds?
Well, the contact you develop with sponsors are very close. Obviously, you travel with these people during the whole year for testing, for races. A race is 4, 5, 6 days. You do event together. we share a passion in common. In the end, it's everybody involved has a passion either for racing or for sustainability, and in most cases, both of them. And so yes, it's important. Personally, for me, it's important to develop a personal relationship with the people I work. In the end, you're only as good as the people that surround you. And sometimes they go through things or you go through things, and understanding and knowing each other better always, I believe, makes for a better work relationship and better results.
How we invest today is how we live tomorrow. That's the Julius Baer philosophy. What does that mean to you?
I think it's a long-term vision. I think it's really important to look beyond tomorrow and look in the future. And you have to understand that any act or any action you take now will have an effect not only tomorrow but for the long term. And that long-term vision, I think, is one of the most important things if you want to find sustainable solutions for our future.
And what criteria do you use personally to make your own investment decisions?
Well, I think that definitely investing into a project or a company that I believe has a lifespan which is quite long, and because it makes sense, because it's perhaps more responsible or more sustainable in very different ways, not only in technology, but in perhaps the way you employ the way you employ, where you build a business, etc. is quite something that's important. And perhaps for me, I think it's important, of course, because we have to be responsible, but also because I believe they are probably the best businesses in the future, because they have that long-term perspective, and the possibility of growth, in touch with regulations that are evolving towards making sure that people do the right thing.
And you really took a risk at the start of all of this. What advice would you give others to make bold, innovative investments?
Well, sometimes you have to go with your gut feeling, with your instinct, and it's something that is scary sometimes because and you do take a risk. But at the same time, if you don't take risks, you don't get any reward. This is just a fact. So for me as a race car driver, if I don't risk it at one point and push the limits, then I just won't be on pole position. An entrepreneur, if at one point he doesn't throw himself out there and just start his thing, and nobody knows if it's going to work or not, you hope it will, but you don't know. If you don't take that risk, then you won't ever achieve anything special or anything that you want to achieve. Actually, personally, I think risk, reward comes with risk.
Thank you, Jérôme.
Okay, cut. Next. Back to one.